I was taken aback, my voice trembling with shock and anxiety when I heard the news. "What do you mean there's been a cancellation?" I asked, my confusion echoing in the silence of my office during my lunch break. I realized I'd spoken louder than intended, quickly lowering my voice. I hadn't requested any cancellations, so why was this happening? My thoughts stalled, leaving my mind a blank slate. On the other end of the line, the insurance company representative remained calm, a stark contrast to my rising panic. "According to our records, we received a cancellation request from you, and the procedure has already been completed," she stated matter-of-factly. I had enrolled in a savings-type life insurance policy at the urging of my sister-in-law Alice, who works as an insurance agent. She had convinced me to choose a more expensive plan than I would have otherwise, driven by the pressure of her sales quotas. "My name is Betty, and I'm a 42-year-old office worker living in an apartment with my husband, Henry, and our young daughter, Linda." Today had been chaotic from the moment it began. Henry had sprung an unexpected overnight business trip on us as soon as he got out of bed, frantically packing his bags. Meanwhile, Linda, who's only in first grade, was in tears because she couldn't find her math textbook. She struggles with her studies, which added to the morning turmoil. I wished Henry would manage his own belongings instead of adding to the chaos by asking where his travel bag or new socks were. This year has been particularly difficult with Henry, and thoughts of divorce have started creeping into my mind more frequently. When I voiced my frustration over their lack of preparation the night before, Linda immediately apologized, her sincerity striking me. "Sorry, Mom, I'll be more careful next time," I reassured her. "It's okay, I should have checked with you yesterday, that was my mistake." Dealing with Henry felt like a different battle entirely. Linda is still so young, and if Henry had only prepared ahead of time, we could have avoided this morning's chaos. He could have been considerate enough to sort his socks or even buy new ones for his trip. His offhand comments about needing new socks for his travels annoyed me. "I had no idea about your business trip schedule," I retorted. "Aren't the socks I washed and put away good enough?" His insistence on new socks struck me as strange, but I kept my thoughts to myself. His business trips are infrequent, happening only every few months, and surely this one had been planned well in advance, even if he hadn't mentioned it. If he needed new socks, he should have bought them himself or at least told me ahead of time. Seeing Linda's tear-streaked face as she pleaded, "Daddy, Mommy, please stop fighting," broke my heart. I turned to her. "Linda, I'm sorry, it's okay, let's find your textbook together." With that, Henry fell silent and continued packing while I helped Linda search through her backpack for her missing math book. Glancing over at Henry, I noticed he was packing casual clothes more suited for a weekend getaway than a business trip. This detail raised a serious red flag for me, igniting old fears. Could Henry be having another affair? His history made my suspicions feel all too valid. He had cheated on me twice before. The first time was right before Linda was born, nearly pushing me to the brink of divorce. After tearful apologies and pleas from his family not to leave him, I reluctantly chose to stay. Then, last year, he strayed again with someone he met on a dating app. Henry, with his blunt demeanor, thinks he's discreet, but his attempts at secrecy are often laughably transparent. When confronted, he would dissolve into tears and apologies, a mixture of pitifulness and frustration given his usual arrogance. I made it clear, one more mistake, and our marriage would end for good. I even had him sign preliminary divorce papers and transfer all our savings into my account as a precaution. Though I forgave him, my feelings had waned entirely due to his selfishness and disinterest in our daughter. I considered delaying the divorce until Linda was older, for her sake. Thankfully, we quickly found Linda's math textbook, and she left for school with a cheerful wave. Left alone in the aftermath of the morning chaos, I skipped making lunch and headed to a nearby shop during my break. There, I spotted an advertisement for the insurance company and remembered my policy was due for a bonus payment. With the high premiums I paid, these bonuses were significant incentives. I began dreaming about how I could spend it, perhaps on some new autumn clothes for Linda. Feeling a bit more optimistic, I stopped at the bank to check my statement, hoping to see the bonus deposited. To my surprise, not only was the expected bonus missing, but this month's insurance premium hadn't been deducted either. Initially, I was puzzled by the discrepancy, but recalling the chaotic conversation about cancellations earlier, a sinking feeling began to settle in. Concerned, I decided to contact the insurance company to clarify the situation. Since my sister-in-law Alice was off that day, another representative took my call. That's when the cancellation confusion came to light. The representative informed me that a cancellation payment had been processed, but I hadn't seen any funds in my account. She insisted that all the paperwork was in order and that the company had followed proper procedures, subtly implying the fault lay elsewhere. If the policy was cancelled without the owner's knowledge, I reiterated firmly that I had no intention of cancelling it. "I'll follow up with Alice and my husband, but please double-check everything on your end," I requested. Once I had made my point clear, I ended the call. Before I knew it, my lunch break was almost over, and I realized I had neither the time nor the appetite to eat the lunch I'd bought. Other concerns were weighing heavily on my mind. Feeling an urgency to resolve the issue, I informed my boss that I needed to leave early and quickly wrapped up my remaining tasks. As I left the office ahead of schedule, I immediately called Henry, wondering whether he was truly on a business trip or if something more suspicious was happening. "Betty, why are you calling?" "I'm at work," he answered after a few rings, irritation lacing his voice. Yet, in the background, I could hear lively music, casting doubt on his claim. "It's ridiculous that you think you can avoid getting caught," I said, my frustration boiling over. "Sorry to bother you, but my life insurance was cancelled without my knowledge, and there's no record of any cancellation payment. Do you know anything about this? I'm seriously considering calling the police. It could be a scam." "Ha, calling the police?" Henry laughed, but I could hear the nervousness creeping into his voice. My suspicions about him and Alice were mounting. When I suggested involving the authorities, Henry quickly confessed, clearly caught off guard. My frustration erupted. "What is with this attitude?" I countered, my anger flaring. "I have plenty of complaints. Why would you cancel the insurance without telling me? I've been paying those premiums with my salary. You should be able to cover your trip expenses." "Ugh, it's so annoying," Henry replied dismissively, "but it's the money I get if something happens to you, right? So it's my money? You're healthy and not in any danger, so we can just start paying the premiums again." I was dumbfounded by his flawed logic. "But the terms change as you age, and the premiums go up, don't you understand that?" "Well, I'm not the one paying for it," he retorted. His casual disregard only deepened my frustration. "Do your parents know about this? That you cancelled my life insurance without telling me? Didn't your father say anything? And Alice is involved in this too, right? You and Alice forged my signature, didn't you?" "Yeah, Mom and Dad were actually happy about it," he admitted, as if that excused his actions. "They thought it was a good idea. It's your fault for controlling all our money." "I just wanted to have fun for once," Henry insisted, as if the whole situation was trivial. "It's no big deal, we're on a family trip, and everyone's happy." "That family includes your parents and Alice, right? Why aren't Linda and I included? Aren't we family too?" I shot back, my voice laced with hurt and disbelief. "Insurance is meant for emergencies, Henry. Shouldn't you have discussed using it for a trip with me first? But you knew I would say no. You and Linda are always together. It's fine for me to spend time with my real family once in a while," he retorted. "Plus, Alice was planning to sign you up for a new life insurance policy, so it's a win-win." "I can't believe you're not embarrassed by these excuses. It sounds like something a child would say, hiding the truth because he knew I'd object. That's exactly why you didn't tell me. You knew I'd be upset. It's so frustrating. If you're going to keep complaining, maybe I should just get a divorce," Henry replied, his tone unusually bold, likely emboldened by his surroundings. I shot back sharply, "Understood." Before hanging up, "Prepare yourself. I'm going to ensure Henry and his family face the consequences," I muttered to myself, my patience finally snapping. Henry had taken my forgiveness for granted far too many times. Despite my threats of divorce, I had once thought my in-laws were decent people. Even though Alice had pressured me into an expensive life insurance policy, I didn't believe she had acted with malice. But decent people don't secretly cancel their daughter-in-law's life insurance to fund their personal pleasures. Like husband, like family, I thought grimly. I was done with all of them. I went straight to see a lawyer, clutching the divorce papers Henry had filled out earlier as if they were a talisman. I filed for divorce immediately. Afterward, I picked up Linda from after-school care. On our way home, I gently explained the situation to her. She was initially surprised, but I reassured her, emphasizing that our well-being was my top priority. Linda seemed to grasp the situation after I took the time to explain everything in detail. Once we arrived home, she asked, "So Daddy isn't coming home anymore?" "He won't be home tonight because he's staying somewhere else. We're getting divorced, so we'll be living apart," I answered cautiously, trying to gauge her understanding and feelings. "Then let's start cleaning up now quickly," she suggested. "What's wrong?" I asked, a bit confused by her urgency. "We're separated from Dad, right, Mom? You don't have to cry anymore. I hate it when Dad makes you upset," Linda explained. "Did you always tell us to stop fighting because you were worried about me being sad?" Of course, I admitted. I had planned to avoid divorce for Linda's sake, but it seemed she had been suppressing her true feelings all along. She often intervened in our arguments because she was concerned about me. "Daddy never plays with me, even on his days off. When I try to talk to him, he just says, 'Be quiet, go away,' like this morning. He only uses me to say mean things to you. I've been so sad." "I love you, Mom," she smiled at me, her warmth filling my heart. Seeing Linda's understanding and resolve was both heart-wrenching and uplifting, bringing tears to my eyes. Her insights into how Henry had prioritized himself over us, combined with her fed-up stance, made it clear that she, too, was ready for a change. I understand, sweetheart. I'm sorry for putting you through such difficult times. From now on, it will be just the two of us, but I promise to take good care of you. I love you so much. Yay! Linda's joyful exclamation filled me with determination. I vowed never to let her feel sad again. While Linda worked on her homework beside me, I busied myself with tasks like consulting a lawyer and researching real estate agents and moving companies. I reached out to my parents to discuss our next steps and gather their support, ensuring that Linda and I would have a strong network as we moved forward. When I explained the situation to my parents, their immediate response was, "Come back home right away. This way, Linda won't have to change schools." My father offered to borrow a truck from a friend to help us move our things. The next morning, I informed the landlord, the school, and the families in Linda's commuting group that we would be relocating to my parents' house, briefly explaining the circumstances. I planned to handle the school's detailed paperwork later and called my workplace to request a day off for the next day. I wanted to complete most of the preparations before Henry returned. By the time Henry got back the next day, my parents had arrived, and we swiftly moved our belongings to their home. Everything was settled except for Henry's things, which were still in the apartment. I left a note that read, "We are divorced, we are strangers now." Before exiting the apartment, I imagined Henry's shock at finding us gone and felt a wave of relief and satisfaction. The smooth execution of this divorce was thanks to the experience I gained during Henry's previous affair. I had warned him then, "Next time, there will be no discussion, we're getting divorced." We had agreed that I would retain custody and all marital assets. With that in mind, Linda and I began our new life at my parents' home. Later, my frantic mother-in-law called, likely reaching out because I had blocked Henry's number. Imagining him sobbing in a corner, I prepared myself for the onslaught. "What are you thinking? Divorcing my son when he hasn't even cheated this time?" she shouted, her voice so loud it made my ears ring. I instinctively pulled the phone away. "Betty, it's not too late. Apologize to my son right now. He's been crying nonstop because he's so upset. Aren't you embarrassed to make such a fuss over this?" "Apologize? Me?" I was taken aback by her demand. "Who do you think you are?" Her surprise was palpable, and for a moment, she fell silent. "Well, yes, it's me, your mother-in-law." "Come on, Betty, what's wrong with you? You're not losing your mind, are you? You're still young." "No, I have one mother. Are you some kind of scam artist?" I replied half-jokingly, yet I meant every word. With the divorce finalized and our relationship reduced to that of strangers, especially after their previous actions, like canceling my life insurance without my consent, I felt no obligation to engage in a serious conversation. "Don't joke around, Betty. If you're going to act like this, we have our own ways of handling things," she warned, her voice dripping with anger. "And what exactly can you do?" I challenged, skepticism lacing my words. "We agreed that if there was another issue, I'd get a divorce immediately. Henry himself told me he wanted this." My firm stance caught her off guard, and I seized the moment to push further. "If you wanted to go on a trip, you should have consulted me first. Instead, you committed a crime. Canceling my life insurance without my permission is essentially forgery, which can lead to imprisonment. I'm fully prepared to pursue this." Given that I knew of no financial troubles in Henry's family, their reckless actions were unforgivable. I couldn't let it go unchallenged. "Wait a minute, we can't be criminals, please. I'm sorry, let's talk," she stammered, the mention of possible imprisonment causing a noticeable shift in her tone. But it was too late for apologies or discussions. I hung up and blocked my in-laws' numbers, cutting off any chance of further toxic interactions. This decisive break marked a new chapter for Linda and me, one where we could seek peace and stability away from the chaos of the past. I later learned that Henry was so shocked by the divorce that he quit his job and withdrew from social activities, retreating into a reclusive existence. As for the life insurance issue, we resolved it through an out-of-court settlement designed for such disputes. My sister-in-law lost her job at the insurance company, which even made minor headlines. The actions of my in-laws became fodder for neighborhood gossip, leading to criticism from relatives and further isolating them socially. With both Henry and my sister-in-law unemployed, they seemed to be facing significant financial struggles. Meanwhile, Linda and I were enjoying a happy and liberated life at my parents' home. Despite the challenges this situation had posed for my daughter, I was committed to giving her all the love and care she deserved. In this new chapter of our lives, we found peace and stability, supported by my parents' love, as we gradually rebuilt our lives free from past turmoil.